This video is of me bending a rib for viola. This is the lower bout rib, and you can see I'm pulling the bending strap with a piece of wood behind it gradually past the flat surface and round the rounded surface at the end of the bending iron. And depending on the angle of my left hand, I can vary the amount of bend, because the amount of bend on the rib varies as it goes round. There I'm just straightening it just a little bit. The first time I like to get the bend pretty much how it needs to be, perhaps a little more bent than it needs to be, because it's easier to straighten it than to do what I'm doing now, which is bending it a little more. And I'm just offering it up to see if it's the right shape. And then when it is, I'm just marking with a pencil where the point of the corner block is for putting the counter curve in. You can see the shape here. It's pretty much the same shape as the final shape. I don't mind if it's slightly different, because working around a mould, when the rib is clamped on, it will pull into shape, as long as the biggest amount of curve is where the biggest amount of curve is on the rib. They need to match up. That was just wetting the rib. I've got a piece of cloth which I'm wringing out. I shall wrap it around the bending iron, and you can see the steam coming off it. Doing it quickly so I get the steam through the rib and not all on my specs. And then I'm just grabbing a fresher piece, a wetter piece of cloth by moving it sideways, so the steam passes through the thickness of the rib. Now that it's sufficiently wet all the way through, I'm pulling it around the end of the bending iron where the curve is sharpest, and I'm having to pull really quite hard to get it to go round. And then I'm just staying still so that the rib sets into that position. If you don't do it for long enough, the natural spring in the wood means that you don't get the curve doesn't stay in the wood. Just checking it on the underside, because it's easy to pull more with one side than the other, and particularly with your thumb and first finger, and not so much at the bottom, and not have enough curve in that part. So I'm just adjusting it a bit. As you can see, I'm pulling quite tightly, and then offering it up again. Now I'm just straightening the rib in the part where it changes direction. This is often the hardest part, because especially if you wet all of the rib to start with, you can get sort of a wobble in there. It's much better to keep that bit straight and let the natural direction of the wood largely determine how that change in direction is actually going to happen. And a few slight tweaks on that difficult bit, just to make sure it fits nicely against the mould. The big part of the rib, the big curve, I didn't wet the rib at all. I just rely on the moisture of the wood, and that is quite adequate and actually helps to keep the stability of the rib. Now it's sort of coming together. I'm just checking how it fits, making sure that it's fine with both ends, and I'm happy with that. And there you are.